Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review the Drowned Earth finale. This is the Aquaman Justice League finale. Nonsensically, DC has called it the Drowned Earth #1. Aquaman Justice League Drowned Earth #1. There's a lot that happens here, but there's that, there's an expression, and I don't know if it's Shakespearean, but it goes something along the lines of much ado about nothing. That's kind of how I feel about this. So much happens here, but so little substance. Because here's the thing, this is beautifully drawn, by the way. The writer's Scott Snyder. It's beautifully drawn by Francis Manapul, Howard Porter, and then Hi-Fi does the colors. So I mean, this is a beautifully drawn comic book, and a lot happens. And visually, I mean, the pages, there's some just beautiful artistic renderings here. So one of the things is that at the very least, even though I think that this is, I call this convoluted. I'm not going to say it's confusing. It's just convoluted. So I could sit here and I could literally draw you a Venn diagram and tell you everything that happened. And it makes sense. So it's not confusing in that respect. It's just convoluted, meaning that we finally get to the point we're supposed to get at, but instead of going into a straight line, it's kind of all over the place, and I think it's unnecessary. Now, the high point in this issue is Aquaman confronting the Kraken. At the end of last issue, we had the Death Kraken was released, and I keep thinking, remember that old Jason and the Argonauts, or what was it? It was that movie with Liam Neeson. I can't remember the name of it, but there was like two of them, and like, release the Kraken. It's like, release the Death Kraken, and That's what happened last issue. Well, ultimately, it took all the way to the end of this issue for finally Aquaman to face the Death Kraken. And Aquaman eventually, by the end of this issue, gets his life force back. And he uses his life force to defeat the Death Kraken, who's about to touch the oceans and destroy all life in the oceans and on the Earth, apparently, because the Death Kraken can do that. Why? Because reasons. And, then he defeats the Death Kraken, and then ultimately he just disappears. He's presumed dead, but Wonder Woman is fairly confident he's still alive. And Wonder Woman, of course, her senses, if Wonder Woman says so, it must be true. And, of course, Aquaman will wake up in the pages of Kelly Sue DeConnick's Aquaman run, and so this is the lead-in up to Kelly Sue DeConnick's Aquaman run. So it's not a bad lead-in. Now, in the meantime, getting there, the three that were invited to Earth to get a portion of the life essence of the Earth's oceans to take back to their planet. They were invited by Orion and Poseidon. Poseidon, of course, then corrupted Orion, and Orion created the Tear of Extinction. Well, the Tear of Extinction, Black Manta used it to coat all his knives. The cheetah used the Tear of Extinction to coat her claws, and she slit the throat of Poseidon, killing Poseidon, sending him to the graveyards of the gods. That led to a battle at the graveyard of the gods, ultimately releasing these Commander Gull and Tide and these three other powerful sea commanders from the past that were trapped apparently somewhere. In any event, so now a lot happened here. Bottom line is, the Earth gets flooded and everyone on Earth turns into a sea creature. Then at the end here, Aquaman feels so bad because that Poseidon betrayed Orion and made Orion think that Commander Tide and Gull were bad guys when they really weren't bad guys. They were betrayed by Poseidon. So Aquaman wants to extend some peace to them, and he basically offers them Poseidon's trident as a sort of a peace gesture. And Black Manta, that pisses off Black Manta, and Black Manta throws his three knives that are coated with the Tear of Extinction, and he basically kills all three of them. So, such a wasted storyline. We have these three new interesting characters, and they're immediately killed off by Black Manta in a couple pages. All this build up for naught. Very disappointing in that regard. And then Aquaman just sacrifices himself. Death Kraken's defeated. Artistically, that's not rendered very well, by the way, even though artistically the book is nice to look at. There are some scenes that just didn't make sense, and I don't think it was possible. This threat of the Death Kraken, never really saw much of a threat. All it was a giant, it was just a tentacle touching the Earth. Didn't really look all that foreboding. when Aquaman defeats it, they didn't really say how, other than the fact that he just would, I guess he just touched it and used his life essence or life power or something. Before she was killed, as she lay dying, when she was stabbed by Black Manta utilizing one of his knives coated with the tear of extinction, I think it was Commander Tide or Captain Tide she restored Aquaman's powers. She took them away from Black Manta, gave them to Aquaman. Then apparently it didn't matter anymore that Black Manta never had Aquaman's powers. Lex Luthor meanwhile was successful in stealing the totality back from the Justice League, from the Hall of Justice, and wanted to get Black Manta back, but Black Manta stayed where he was ultimately, defeated by Aquaman and the Justice League, and Aquaman ultimately defeated the Death Kraken. So this issue ends with Aquaman disappearing. He's off the map. Mera now replaces him as a member of the Justice League, and the totality is now in the hands of the Legion of Doom. So, for us Justice League fans, all you need to know is if you didn't quite understand all of what happened in Drowned Earth, that's okay. Just know that the Earth was flooded, the bad guys were defeated, Aquaman disappeared, Mera replaces Aquaman in the Justice League, and at the end of it, we now know that the Tear of Extinction is one of the 7 deadly forces that was released when the Source Wall broke down. So we've got the Ultraviolet Core, we've got the Tear of Extinction, and we've got the Sage Force. 3 forces that we know were released when the Source Wall broke down, and the totality itself. And that woman trapped in the totality, or imprisoned in the totality, that perpetual woman, that woman that could utilize all the 7 deadly forces that the Batman Who Laughs told Lex Luthor about, she's still trapped in the totality. The Legion is, the Justice League doesn't know about it, but Lex Luthor does. Lex Luthor now has the totality, and as Lex Luthor says, the Justice Leaguers aren't even going to use the totality. It's wasted on them. Give the totality to the Legion of Doom. We'll figure out something to do with it. So that's where we're at. So all in all, I got to give Drowned Earth as a storyline. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's not near as good as Witching Hour. I do believe the reason for that is Scott Snyder isn't quite as good as James Tynion IV in writing these larger tales. James Tynion IV is also better at exposition. He's better at explaining things, and he's better at structuring his stories in a more coherent manner than Scott Snyder is. He's just a little bit better at it, that's all. Not to say I didn't enjoy it. I still enjoyed Drowned Earth, just not as much as I could. Now, that's it. So guys, tell me what you think of Drowned Earth. And until next time, Merry Christmas. It's December 2nd, 2018. And I'll catch you later. Hit the subscribe button, and Comic Boom out.